whole screen? Really? All right, whatever.
So yeah, this is, and we have everyone that is joining. Go ahead and put your industry in the chat. Put your industry in the chat. We always like to know who's here. Juliet's going to take some time. She's going to share with us on her presentation, and then we're going to have time for questions and answers. Let me tell you the rules of engagement, okay? Got it. The rules of engagement are this. In the chat, you can say things like, woohoo, that's awesome, didn't know that, amen, praise the Lord, whatever you want to say, right? Just that was great, that was amazing. That's what the chat is going to be for. And then the Q&A button is where we want you to post your questions, because that way we get an opportunity to filter through really quickly and get right to the questions that everyone has, okay? Juliet will share her contact information, all the things, so you'll have all of that, but put your city and industry in the chat. Put your questions though in the Q&A. All right, Juliet, you take it from here, and yeah, let's go.
I wish I was at home.
Why?
Because then I would be able to see things on another monitor.
Oh.
I'm working on my MacBook sitting on a box. You know how it is when you're visiting and you like have computer will travel.
Yeah, hey, it's all good. Do you think?
Anyway, can you all see? Do you see the video too? All right, well, I'll make that go away, so will be really scary. All right, so my company is called Writing is Easy, and I just have a funny story. My son was helping me create my website and stuff when I came up with this name, because there's a quote by Hemingway where he says, writing is easy, you just sit at the typewriter and bleed. Well, I don't, but other people do. And I really liked it because he was writing it up, and he asked me what my what I wanted my email address to be. And I said, Juliet@writingiseasy.com. He goes, Mom, that sounds like Juliet is easy. I'm like, honey, I am. I'm easy to work with. So I just stick with my writing is easy, and it conveys, exactly what I do. So let's get started, because I really have a lot of information to share, and I don't know if I have enough time. One of my favorite quotes is this, is that it's not really none of their business that you had to learn to write. Let them think you were born that way. And people think I just kind of came into this world learning how to write. No, I was raised by a writer. I ended up majoring in English. Language was always very important in our house. We were never talked down to. I never talked down to my children. So, and my grandson, same thing. He's 4, and he tells me it's terrifying in the living room, Juju, when it's all dark. That's just the beginning of good communication, is having vocabulary. We all have to learn it. So my background is basically, I began entirely too many years ago as a nonprofit executive director, writing grants, sitting in on panels, reviewing grants for the state of North Carolina, Florida, South Carolina, Brevard County here in Florida. And I basically learned everything I needed to know, and until I just realized that I was suffering from low income status in the nonprofit arena. So I went and looked for jobs and found a proposal manager and proposal writer for a government contract. And what's this? So I Googled it and figured it out. Went, oh my gosh, it's the same thing I've been doing for the last X number of years, decades. And I took my resume and did a find and delete for grant and started on this journey. And about 4.5, 5 years ago, I started this business and have been on an upward trajectory ever since. And some of the agents, so I am industry agnostic. I am procurement vehicle agnostic, because I am a writer. I'm not a technical writer. I'm a proposal writer. And it's very, very different. And I'll touch on that in the next slides. But as you can see, I've worked just a whole plethora of different kinds of industry. So this is just sort of an overview slide of what we're going to kind of cover on a real high level. When you're writing for anything to do with responding to an RFP, an RFQ, a sources sought, whatever the heck it is, you have to be compliant first. Next, you want to be responsive, which is answering the requirements and given just a little bit more. You want your answers, your responses to be very customer driven. We tend to write very narcissistic, egocentric writing when we start talking about the stuff we can do, and it's more about what's in it for the customer. So you want to be solution and benefit forward with your features and your experience supporting your solution and how you deliver the benefits. You want to answer, so what? Oh, these are all great things, but who cares? So what? Explain to me why you're different, why I should pick you. And then just talk a little bit about crafting that value proposition that really makes it hard for them to choose anybody else. So this is like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? At the very bottom is the most important thing when you're responding to an RFP, RFQ, or any of those kinds of things. You want to comply with the requirements, and that includes the instructions for the proposal. This, very technical stuff, the statement of work, the PWS, turn it in on time, meet the page requirements, use the right fonts. You want to align your solution with that evaluation criteria. So if they're going to evaluate, one of the qualifiers is that you have averaged shipments of 25,000 shipments annually or monthly over the last 3 years, your response needs to align with that. You want to talk about your benefits and how your solution and your approach and your team alleviates, reduces solves their needs, answers their wants and concerns. Then you want to clearly articulate your solution and why they should pick you. You want to use graphics and the organization of your proposal and the way it's presented, the visual, to be appealing and to help tell your story. When you're writing a complex system, when you're writing about or describing a complex system, words really don't work. A picture, paints 1,000 words. And then you want to make sure it's edited and proofed and you polish and you are consistent throughout with your style. And I'm going really quickly through this, but these are the basic elements. And the arrows go up and down because you start off with a compliant outline and then you plug in your solution and then you keep coming back around to make sure at the end that you've complied, that you've aligned everything, that you stated the benefits, so that when you hit submit, it's a polished, compliant, benefit first, customer focused proposal response. So I'm just going to hit on these little bits for government contractors. Y'all probably already know this. The key sections for response for a proposal are, first of all, I need to say that not all RFPs, RFQs, or RFIs or sources sought have a section C, L, or M. Some of you may be submitting to state, county, city entities, and even government entities that don't actually have these sections. But what you're looking for is, what is the work, the detail of the work they want you to do. Can you do it? Do you have the capability? Do you have the past performance? Do you have all your ducks in a row to do that? The instructions, section L, is going to tell you how many your page limit, how they want you to organize the proposal, where it's supposed to be submitted, when it's supposed to be submitted, Q&A, all of these things, what are all the conditions and notices to offers and all that legal stuff. And then section M, the evaluation factors, how are they deciding to pick the winning contract? And that's really, really important, because I think some of you probably already know, sometimes price matters more, sometimes technical is more valuable than past performance. And when they're looking for small businesses, past performance often outweighs everything, because if you don't have proof of capability to perform, they really don't even want to take it any further. Section C, this is really important. And you can actually, use the Adobe system to do a find on everything that says will, shall, or must, because those are the things you have to be able to do. You must submit a monthly report in this forum. You must deliver this. You must provide a quality control plan within 30 days of award, all these kinds of things I think most of you are very familiar with. Section L covers all of this stuff. What kind of contract is it? What are the requirements? What are the volume requirements? It can be as simple as we just need a 5-page capability statement and your rough order of magnitude pricing. That's a requirement. Those are your instructions. Or it could say we want a 175-page technical response, a 50-page management, and a 50-page past performance, and key personnel are not including page limits. This is just really typical things. Let's see. So section M is all about how they're going to weight and score. So for instance, the example I have here is that they are saying these are the different factors, and you're going to be evaluated based on these factors. And then further down, they'll say how they weight them. And I know I'm just like running a cursory thing over this, but this is when we start talking about writing to win. So this is where I also want to talk about technical writing versus proposal writing. I had a wonderful conversation with a colleague about when she called me a technical writer. I said, I'm not a technical writer, because the whole intention of the writing that I do is to persuade the reader to pick my client or pick me if I'm pitching myself. So what is writing to win? It's persuasive writing. And what is persuasive? It means that someone who's persuasive is good at persuading someone to do believe something through reasoning or use of temptation. It's also convincing. It's also compelling. It's also valid. It's also winning. So I should go back to that screen and talk a little bit about this. I encourage you all, not just to soothe my ego, but I've developed somehow a really strong following on LinkedIn, and this is how we met. And I just posted recently a series on what is persuasion, what are the principles of persuasion. And I want to pause right here for just a second. I've done a lot of copywriting. I've done a lot of marketing writing. I've done a lot of content writing. And I used to do triathlons. And that cross training of running and swimming and biking, they all enhanced each other. And I find copywriting really enhances my proposal writing, because in copywriting, it's like poetry. Every single word matters. So every single word needs to be targeted at persuading the reader or the listener to trust me, trust my client, believe that our solution is actually going to alleviate their pain points, that it's valid, that we really know what we're doing and you should pick us, basically, really that kind of simple. And there are a couple aspects of copywriting that are interesting. And you might hear about the hook a lot. You got to have a good hook. My hook is writing to win. That's what I do. But really what the customer, when they read your proposal, is looking for, what's a fish looking for? They're looking for the worm. They're looking for the worm that's on the hook, because they're looking, I made a little list of these things, so I'm looking off to the side. They look for the value, the benefit, the experience they're going to have when their pain points and risk issues that are keeping them up at night are diminished, mitigated, or just eliminated. They're looking for the results that they are looking for. They're looking for you to help deliver those results. They're looking to improve their lives. They're looking to improve their business. They're looking to improve how they spend our tax dollars to provide better services or protect against cybersecurity threats, whatever it happens to be. They're looking for time savings, money savings, and they're looking for you to help simplify the very complicated, showing them, demonstrating to them that you have full understanding. So basically, the words are your tool to deliver your value. And that's what writing to win is all about. What your words do is the value delivered by the words that you write and use in pitching yourself converts the reader to believers. That's your goal, is delivering value through words that converts readers to believers in you. So I came across Robert Cialdini's, I think it's Cialdini, I've actually never heard his name said, the 7 principles of persuasion. I'm not going to hit these hard. And if, like I said, follow me on LinkedIn, you can go into my recent post, and I have a post for each of these. So reciprocity. People feel obligated to give back when someone else is given first. Now, it's tricky in government contracting, but I think we know how this works. A waiter or waitress gives you a free dessert or mints, and you're more likely to tip them a little more. I mean, that's kind of how reciprocity is. Scarcity means that if they think there's less of something, it means it's more value, and we can all relate that to toilet paper, gas, and what we've all been through in the last couple of years. Authority, people follow those that are leading with credibility and knowledge experts, so that validation from other clients, other customers. You're on the Fortune 500, Esquire writes an article about your CEO. People like to be consistent with the things they've said or done before. So if you've met a contracting officer and they say this, that, and the other, and you repeat that, not quoting them, but using their same words about their pain points and about things they're looking for, you've crossed over to the other side of the table and are sitting next to them as a collaborator and someone who understands. People prefer to say yes to people they like. Social proof, we all know about that with influencers and all that kind of stuff. And then unity springs from our innate desire to belong. So one of the things, and I'll talk about this later, is instead of thinking of yourself as a contractor, but thinking of yourself as a collaborator, that you share the same goals, the same mission, the same results-oriented drive and pursuit that your clients or customers do, you then are in the same place. You found that common ground. And I recognize this is a lot of information I'm throwing at you. And honestly, so much of this is in my posts on LinkedIn. So if you feel like you need to go back through it, feel free. That's why they're there. The first principle of persuasion and writing to win is writing about them, because it is not about you. It's about perspective. Until the first, and I'm right here on the Space Coast where SpaceX rockets and the Saturn V went up, and I watched them as a kid. The first visions we had of the moon were from the upper atmosphere of the Earth, in some of those early rocket launches and satellite launches, and the early orbit of the Earth, and seeing the moon in the distance. And then we sent a rocket ship to the moon, and we saw how small and insignificant and how beautiful our little blue marble that we live on is. Complete change in perspective for all of us when we finally had that view of Earth from space. And perspective is everything. It's not about you, it's about your audience. If you want to convince anybody of anything, you've got to drop your ego at the door, leave your features in your back pocket, and focus on what they're looking for and what their needs are. You want to begin with collaboration. And so many contractors think, I want to increase my revenue this year, and I've got this great solution, and I'm going to price this to make sure that I win and that I make a whole lot of money, and I'm more focused on me. If you can shift your mindset to walking around on the other side of the table with your customer, collaborate with them on a solution. And if you can get your current clients to write in your CPARs or give you quotes on how collaborative you were. So many of you rose to the occasion during COVID and solved significant problems and provided workarounds and all sorts of things when we were under just incredible constraints and in a new world order, really, of how we do business. And you became a collaborator with your customer. If you were successful, you did. And it's just one new approach. empathizing with your customer. You know, you've got to understand your customer's pain, their struggles, their needs, and you use their language to write about your solution. So if the Army talks about the warfighter, you use the warfighter with a capital W, by the way, or soldier with a capital S. And it's mission certainty, it's operational continuity. There are all sorts of lingo within different industry and different governmental agencies that you want to use, and you get that information going to industry day, meeting them, listening, looking at their websites, looking at their enabling legislation and their budget documents. You learn that by reading the RFP very carefully. And if they use on-site as a hyphenated word, then you use on-site as a hyphenated word. You match them. It's much like mirroring. So once again, you're trying to make them the hero of their own story. You're going to help them get what they want. That's your job. It's not about you building your business. If that happens too, that's great. But you're much more likely to get more work if you're focused on your customers' issues and what their problems they're trying to solve. So you want to begin by solving their problem. What are their problems? What are their hot buttons? What are their pain points? And how does your solution directly align with resolving those pain points and solving those problems? And what proof do you have that you can actually solve those problems? I grew up as a musician and I love Miles Davis, and I don't know, I was listening to one of the jazz stations around here and I saw this tune come on. I went, oh yeah, Miles Davis. So what? So what is a tune that has a dialogue? It's da na 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 bum bum. And the question is, so what? You've got to answer that so what question before it's asked. And what is the answer? The answer are your discriminators. How do you stand out in the crowd? How does your approach, your experience, your special sauce discriminate you from everybody else? And the reality is in some contracts, in some proposals, everybody's going to be, it's so prescriptive. The PWS and Tower are so prescriptive that you don't have any choice but to kind of just get in that lane and go with it. But your experience is always different. Your personnel are a little different. The way you talk about your solution, if you come as a contractor and you're not saying, my company does this, my company does this, you say the agency is, by choosing us sort of thing. That's really juvenile, but by choosing us, you partner with or are collaborating with an experienced, there's a lot of words you can use very specific to your approach. And all of this, the so what questions are answered in your value proposition. And one of the things I want to say about a value proposition, it is not one sentence. It's not a value proposition sentence. It's a paragraph. It's a set of win themes of why you plus them equals a win for them. What makes a good value proposition? It's really clear and easy to understand. Communicates very specifically the results that the customer will get. So let's say the current incumbent is having a hard time with their fill rate. Let's say it's a bunch of nurses. And they can't keep nurses. Nurses are hard to get. It's a hard to fill position sometimes, particularly if it's in an austere location or a location away from a big city and you've got to house them and all this kind of stuff. So let's say you've done this before and you had a 97% fill rate and like a 99% retention rate, or they're concerned about the maintaining the knowledge base. How good are you at attracting the incumbent personnel and keeping them? What do you do to do that? And how have you done it? So you have a little focus box or call out box that say on similar work with such and such, we have maintained a 97% retention rate or transition rate or whatever. And then you explain how you did it. How do you do that? What's your compensation package? Are you a lean machine? Do you provide opportunity for advancement? Just there's a whole multitude of things that you can say there. And that value proposition needs to be read and understood in just a few seconds. They should just be able to see it. So sometimes you can do what is in essence a value proposition in a text box at the beginning of your proposal or beginning of a section with key information in a little focus box. It's a great way to do it. Your value proposition can include checked boxes that you're a service disabled veteran-owned business, or you're ISO cert and you have an X retention rate in that same area and industry and work or whatever. So this is kind of a funny story. So I don't know. I think it's kind of funny. It's kind of odd. When I lived down here before, there was a tire kingdom within walking distance of my house, and I'd had them change my oil numerous times. And so I went over there, and why did I keep going to Tire Kingdom? Why did I trust Tire Kingdom? I trusted them because it was reasonable. The location was great. I could go drive my car over there and walk home. They call me and I go walk back over and get my car. They did good work. I didn't have any problems with any of the oil changes they did. And the key thing is I don't really care what they had to do with the oil. I don't really care what they had to do to get their mechanics certified. I don't care about all those features because they were solving my problem. The benefit to me from those features that I don't really care about, except the location, was it was affordable, it was convenient, it was reliable. And the proof was in my experience, and the proof was on their website actually, and the business that they had. So a benefit in your proposal or in your persuasive dialogue is stating what success looks like. The feature is how you deliver that success, and the proof is how is the customer going to know that you actually can deliver. We go back to talking about pain points. An excellent exercise that I should include in these slides is just getting a table, making a table in Word, and the left-hand column is the customer's pain points. The next column is benefit statements, taking those pain points and turning them into benefit statements. So instead of saying they're having a retention rate of nurses, the benefit statement is a 97% retention rate on nurses in similar settings or in whatever, something like that. And then the next column is features, which is how you do that. So it might be a compensation package. It might be your recruiting. It might be a whole bunch of different things. And then the final column is proof. So you have pain points, benefits, feature, proof. Fabulous exercise. I do this with a lot of people, particularly when they're trying to figure out how to articulate their value proposition, how to articulate why them, their so what, their why. I use it a lot when I do copywriting too, because it helps me get the language and the words and the terms that I need to write that very pithy copy. Some of the tools of writing to win include, and this is really getting down into the brass tacks of writing, it should be one idea or concept per sentence. And let's see if I can walk through this little animated thing. So here's a sentence that my client wrote, provided me to edit. Super Therapy Services, a behavior analytic service agency, is committed to utilizing a collaborative assessment-based approach to developing effective individualized behavior supports for children, adolescents, and adolescents behavior. Problem behavior. Well, I can't even read it. It's exhausting. So let's clean this up a little bit. Just take it one step, one idea or concept per sentence. Super Therapy Services is a behavior analytic services agency. We use a collaborative assessment-based approach. We develop effective individualized behavior supports for children and adolescents with problem behavior. So I think we can all agree that's better, but it's kind of choppy. So let's take it to the next level and tighten it up and throw the customer around a little bit more. For Calvert County School District, Super Therapy Services provides a comprehensive system of individualized behavioral health services for children and adolescents with problem behavior. That's what Super Therapy Services does. What else do we do? As a behavior analytics service agency, STS delivers a wide spectrum of services to CCS across diverse settings and at various levels of care. It's a little higher level. It's talking to the customer a little more. You don't know the RFP, but it's using some of more of their terms. They talked about various levels of care and all these different settings. So this is a way of introducing our approach to the services, just cleaning it up a little bit, using more words that address the benefit and the customer. All right, so I'm all about being direct, and that's supposed to be a school building. So most everyone, I think, probably took an English composition course in high school or college, and the teacher said, what you want to do is state your thesis, make your case, and then make your conclusion. And in proposal writing and in persuasive writing, you do the opposite. You put your message of the most important information first. So I actually have clients, and if you're doing this, stop doing this, we'll put a conclusion at the end of a section. Well, if you haven't gotten me as a reviewer in the first paragraph, I may not ever make it to that last paragraph. So if you write that way, go ahead and write your conclusion after you've made your case. Now take that conclusion and move it to the very front to begin with the end in mind and state it first. So what's the end point? Our solution delivers these benefits using these features. And we've done this for other people, and here's the proof. There's your value proposition, right? You want to begin with that. And then the rest that you write, if you can hook them at the front with that worm of value, benefit, experience, results, money saved, time saving, cost saving, schedule, and performance. Those are the things that the government worries about. If you can address those right up front in a very clear way and deliberate way, focused on the client and customer, you're going to grab them. So you want to get to the point, get there quick, make your point, and then back it up.
So that was a little bit of our contracts and conversations recently with Juliet Fletcher. And what I want you to do is check the links in our bio, in our description, That way you'll be able to find out more about the Mission 500K community, and you can get the full recording of the entire contracts and conversations, along with the very powerful Q&A that happened after this particular contracts and conversations. As you know, we're on a mission to teach 500,000 small businesses how to succeed in the government contracting space without writing proposals. This particular contracts and conversations was extremely important because Juliet talks all about writing to win, right? And as I said in the intro, I believe there are certain parts of the proposal that you want to have on hand anyway, and there are certain opportunities you're going to have to write. Okay, it's just no way around it. And so if you do have to write, we want you to write to win. So make sure you subscribe so that you can see our videos as soon as we post them. And I look forward to having an opportunity to work with you. I'm Sirena Moore Thomas. Have a blessed day.